Graduates grow and build connections through industry-led professional networks. Claim your future at UMBC.
State Circle is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you.
Connecting Marylanders to their government. This is State Circle.
Good evening. Welcome to State Circle. I'm Jeff Salkin, broadcasting from out of the studio tonight. We will have our wrap-up of the abbreviated 2020 session of the General Assembly. But first, an update on Maryland's response to the global coronavirus pandemic. Governor Hogan spoke with reporters Thursday. He's urging Marylanders to avoid crowds at all costs.
This fight against this global pandemic is a race against time, and we must take action now. We cannot afford to delay, which is why here in Maryland, I am continuing to take whatever actions are necessary to protect the health of millions of Marylanders and to save thousands of lives.
For the latest on the health emergency in Maryland, visit coronavirus.maryland.gov. Now to the emergency early ending of the 2020 session of the Maryland General Assembly. Lawmakers did pass a budget. They approved a major state investment in horse racing, a new school construction plan, and a controversial package of education reforms and funding increases produced by the Kirwan Commission. Here's how that debate looked in the House of Delegates.
My son goes to a school where most of the kids are living in poverty, but because of the down payment we put on the blueprint, we've been able to invest in additional wraparound services. We've had early interventions for reading. We have 65 kids that were identified as slow reading learners, and already half of them have been removed because they got the attention that they were due and that they deserved. So let's not pretend we always did the right thing, and now we just have to pull in the belt a little bit. We haven't been doing the right thing, and now is not the time to pull back. This is a time to dig deeper.
It is billions upon billions upon billions of dollars in additional mandated spending and formula spending for the number one goal of the state, the number one goal from Oakland to Ocean City, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. Our number one goal is to have great schools and to provide a good public education. But it is billions and billions and billions of dollars that we're agreeing to spend tonight in perhaps the most uncertain times that any of us have experienced, certainly since the tragedies of 9/11.
I was in the classroom for 10 years. I didn't meet a single parent who did not care about their kids, who did not want to do the best for them. Some of them may not have had the resources to hire tutors or buy books, and some of them might have been working 2 or 3 jobs, so they didn't have time to provide the type of support that my parents provided when I was a kid. And that's not new. We're not just failing kids today. We've been failing kids for decades. Decades. In every county in this state, it's not just about one county. I live and represent the richest county in the state of Maryland. And in my county, too, we fail kids. This bill provides the opportunity to change that.
There's great things in here I think we can all agree. I think we'll have philosophical differences on the most part, but we want the best for every teacher, for every student. But to sit here in a time of economic crisis, to not act with conservative financial principles, to not be prudent in a state of emergency, I think is irresponsible. We should push this back. You have the numbers, you know you do. Vote for it next year. Doing it right now, it doesn't make the least bit of sense to tell the people of our state, while they're suffering unlike they've ever suffered before, that we are in here spending the most we have ever spent.
It was Victor Hugo that commented that when we invest in education, when we open schools, we close prisons. And that is what we're doing here. I'm proud to vote for this, and I think it will be a monumental piece of legislation that will have a profound impact on every single child's life in and outside of the classroom. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take a call. There being 96 votes in the affirmatives, House Bill 1300 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Good work, everyone.
This was the first session for Maryland's new Speaker of the House of Delegates, Adrienne Jones. She met with reporters immediately after adjournment.
I think that there's something that all of our the public can feel that we have done so within the shorter times that we had. So it was sometimes grueling, but at the same time we knew we had to get it done and get as much done as we could with during the circumstance that we had. So yeah.
What's proud of this session having accomplished?
Well, I think definitely Kerwin. Definitely, when we were asked to do a bill to address the circumstances we were able to put it together, that we were to work collaboratively, the House and Senate leaders and the minority and majority party. We put that aside in terms of what is needed for the public, so that was a good thing. So,
given the abbreviated session, was there anything that fell through the cracks?
Well, there's always people. I think the key legislation that people were asking for and worked on for years and years, such as Kerwin, was done, and we're able to have a revenue source and debate it. But it's going to be probably some individual members' bills that may not gotten through, but we try to do the bills that were not saying they're more important than the others, but there were some key ones we had to get out, and so they had taken priority. So,
can you talk about your hopes and expectations for the work group that you've
well, I think that they will have the time to look at what needs to be done. They can avail themselves of some of the resources, talking with the administration in terms of what needs to happen. So I think that there's a good cross-section of people. They get along with each other, and so they know what their mission is, and I think they'll work well as a group.
The Senate also has new leadership this year. Our Nancy Amata spoke with Senate President Bill Ferguson.
President Ferguson, when you accepted this job, you had no idea that this is how the session would end, and under these circumstances, as you said goodbye to the legislative body today, you were emotional, you choked up.
This was an extraordinary session in every sense of the word. From the beginning to the end, it just was a truly something that I never could have expected. And despite all of it, despite the sort of seismic transitions, from the outset we said we were going to get some pretty remarkable things done, and we set an ambitious agenda, and we got it done. We did the work, and it's a testament to the quality of legislators that we have in the Maryland Senate and the General Assembly overall, that despite the transitions, despite the circumstances of a global pandemic, we've really set the state of Maryland up for success in the future once we get through this crisis.
You fulfilled your obligation to pass a capital budget, but beyond that, in the last 4 days especially, you packed a lot in. Let's talk about the highlights in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think without any question, passing a balanced budget, unanimously passed, that put hundreds of millions of dollars towards the response and the recovery associated with the coronavirus crisis that we're seeing, but also protected our values and invested in public education, protecting the environment, the things that we know we will care deeply about through and after this crisis. We passed landmark legislation, the blueprint for Maryland's future. In the Senate, we passed it in a bipartisan way. We had a number of Republican votes, and I think that's what's so special about the Maryland Senate, is that we come into the work to solve problems. It's not about Republican solutions or Democratic solutions. It's about just finding what is best for the people of Maryland. We invested $2 billion in new school construction across the state, and after this crisis, we know the economy is really in a place of concern, and we're going to have to be creating jobs. I'm just really proud of the work that we were able to do.
There's of course a lot of concern about, for instance, with the Kerwin, how is that going to be paid for, given that there could be a downturn in the economy?
Well, I'll tell you, the bill that we passed in the Maryland General Assembly, and in the Senate particularly, is a bill that we laid out the revenues of how we could pay for it. And we put some checks in the system to make sure that we were going to be able to follow through on the promises that we were making. We included a revenue adjustment that if the economy suffers significantly from a downturn related to the COVID-19 spread, that we will have to sort of slow the implementation, which would be incredibly unfortunate, but is just a reality of where we are right now. And so I think the bill that we passed is incredibly responsible. It's why every member of the Budget and Taxation Committee, Republicans and Democrats, all supported the bill at the end of the day.
What about the crime legislation? I know that was top priority for the governor and a lot of lawmakers as well.
You know, I think we passed really some bipartisan solutions out of the Senate. A number of them made it through to the finish line. We really wanted to take every option that was on the table and put together a package. I'm proud of the work that we did. We created a statewide crime plan, microzones to invest in areas that have had increased law enforcement, but also increased supports to prevent crime. You know, the challenge with crime is it's complex, and there's a short-term solution and a long-term solution. And too often we devolve into saying, if you're not doing the short term, you're not tough on crime, then you're failing. And that's just ludicrous. We know that that's not the case. We know, we've seen the impacts of that. And so I think the approach that we took as a General Assembly was a lot more balanced and more thoughtful, and took care of both sides, investing in communities to give real opportunity.
Let's talk about the emergency legislation to help Marylanders moving forward. So many people concerned about not just their health, but their finances, the economy.
Yeah, this is, I think, was pretty illustrative and instructive for me, and really spoke to the reason why the legislative branch of government is a co-equal branch and has a role to play in the policy making in the height of a crisis. As this bill moved forward, we worked hand in hand with the governor to put together protections and try to anticipate some of the challenges that are going to be coming as a result of the efforts to reduce the community spread of the coronavirus, from price gouging issues to employment protections to restaurant closures. All of these things have these ripple effects on policy. So despite being in a state of emergency, there is a policy role to figure out how do we protect the rights and the future for Marylanders moving forward. And I think we did great work. I'm sure there's going to be work to be done moving forward, and that's why we're doing this joint work group of the legislative branch to monitor the situation and help to provide ongoing support through this crisis.
You and the House Speaker over the last few weeks certainly have worked so closely with the governor. In your opinion, how has the governor addressed this pandemic, this emergency, and has this improved relations perhaps between leadership and the governor, which at times has been contentious in the past?
You know, I think it's very easy, particularly ahead of all of the spread of the coronavirus. You know, the Republican-Democratic partisanship divide that exists was very real and very, you know, there were these tensions that existed. I think in moments like this, in crisis, real leadership focuses on what really matters, and that's that we're all Marylanders and that we have to row in the same direction to protect our future. And I think we, you know, even with little bumps in the road, at the end of the day, all of us had this common vision that this is serious, this is real. We have to act in unison and in a united way in order to make sure that we are protecting Marylanders and preparing for what's to come. And so I think this was a good, you know, if there's a silver lining I think it reminded us all what we care about, and that's one another and our shared humanity moving forward.
How did you grow as a leader? What did you learn about yourself?
I think I learned more on a daily basis than I ever could have imagined. I learned how much I need other leaders, and that this is that effective legislating is a team sport. There's no individual in a legislative body. It is always about the whole. And so I think I learned to listen even better than I always knew listening was a critical component, but we all have so much more in common than we do that's different, and sometimes we don't express it the right ways. And the more I listened, the more I was able to sort of hear the common interest that we had, and that's what allowed us to move big work. I mean, I'm just really proud of the work that we did on the education bill, the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. I mean, the fact that we had 6 Republicans join us in what is a very contentious issue, I think prove just how much the Maryland Senate came together to solve a problem.
Has President Emeritus Miller, did he advise you at all? Did you go to him at all? And you know, you were saying you think he'd be very proud of the work that the Senate and the legislative body has done.
I think he is very proud, and I spoke to him this morning. He was doing whatever he could to make it to the last day today, but unfortunately his health just couldn't allow him. The doctors wouldn't release him, and I thought maybe he would break out on his own just to be here. But we spoke on the phone this morning, and it was a tough call because he really wanted to be here. And I just, I'm so humbled and honored to follow him and have learned so much. And he was such an incredible mentor and guide for what was a transition for all of us. And I couldn't have done it without him. And so I'll forever be thankful and grateful to him.
For now, the plan is to come back in late May. Are you optimistic about that? And what's still left on the table?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm really optimistic. I think all of us realize that what we are facing right now is unprecedented, and the social distancing and the impacts that are going to come to our economy, as well as the health impacts and the working through the public health crisis. I am sure that there is going to be an ongoing set of agenda items to tackle as we sort of work through this coronavirus response, and we're going to be monitoring it very closely. Unfortunately, you know, there's no stopping the work. It's just a different format. And so, you know, the little things like today when I had a community member call while I was on the floor saying that the community didn't have any diapers and there was no transportation. And so, you know, we were trying to coordinate donations of diapers to a public housing complex in the city. And it's just, that's going to come up more and more depending on how this thing plays out.
President Ferguson, we thank you for your time and your leadership during these uncertain times, and we look forward to seeing you back here very soon, hopefully.
I want to thank you, Nancy, and thank all members of the press. You know, it was remarkable how dedicated our press corps was to covering the session in the midst of a crisis, and just want to thank you for your ongoing work through this. We can't do it without you.
Nancy, thank you. When State Circle continues, a Republican view of the legislative session.
Can you tell us what you know?
Turning back now to the race for the White House.
The State Board of Elections voted Thursday to set up a new election.
It must be a very emotional day.
The world changed in the blink of an eye.
Children are at the heart of this story.
Drop your phone and just be in the moment.
You guys ready?
It's a thrill to see images of a new world for the first time.
I want to look back and say, I learned something. That is where transformation happens.
I see people cry on this show, and I'm like, what y'all doing, man?
Out of the water came this giant thing.
That's incredible.
I feel it in my bones.
This is so totally amazing.
They hear that song and they're like, that's my story.
I have chills.
All of the joys, all of the sorrows.
This is where it comes from.
The rest is history.
Our job is the truth.
I'm a journalist.
My destiny is to rule this country.
I will not run away.
Yes, Mom.
It's very exciting.
Lord, I'm getting tired of being so lonely. I've got the fire inside that burns more than it lights.
Sir, are you a gentleman?
How dare he?
I'm a strong woman and I've got my own. I'm in control. I need somebody to hold.
I refuse to be tamed. Kiss me. It's terribly hot, isn't it?
No?
Please be mine again.
No.
As lawmakers race toward adjournment this week, our Sue Copen caught up with a Republican leader.
Thanks, Jeff. Joining me now is Senate Minority Leader J.B. Jennings. I suspect that the session is not going the way you expected when you came here on opening day.
Well, since first day of session, everything's been running normal as every other session. About a week ago, once the coronavirus kind of started hitting Washington State, and we could see it migrating around the country, you kind of started to realize, well, something might happen here. And I believe it was early last week when we had our first case hit in Maryland, I think it was our first 3 cases, that you realized, okay, what are we going to do now? And then quickly, over 3 days, it came to the fact that we realized session wasn't going to go to the full term of 90 days and that we were going to have to end early. And the decision was made on Saturday that staff, unless you are considered emergency personnel or essential personnel, don't come back. Work from home, telework, which we've been doing, and that's where we are now. So we are truly running at a skeleton crew. For instance, the 15 senators, we have 1 staffer on the floor with us upstairs. All of our other staff is at home. They're doing their work still, but when it comes to making copies, getting us the information we need, we're having to get it via emailed, and it's been a very tough week for us. And those that are here staff-wise are tired, they're worn out. They've done an incredible job. I mean, a yeoman's job of serving their citizens. And we feel bad that they're running as hard as they are, but so are we. I mean, it's been nonstop because we're, sine die is the last day of session, and normally we start at 10 o'clock in the morning and we go to midnight, in and out, in and out. And we've kind of been doing that for 4 days straight now.
Let's look at the issues that were at the top of the list when the session started, and I believe crime was one of them.
In my view, it was one of our number 1 issues, as well as many of my colleagues. We had a couple great bills introduced. Some of them have been passed, although a little watered down. I wish they were a little stronger than where they are, but that's the legislative process. I do not know where they stand right now. I mean, when I say things are fluid, they truly are fluid. Of things are moving quickly between the 2 chambers, and we'll start to kind of get a better focus tonight. Once we adjourn, we'll see where we are, and then tomorrow come in and try to finish the last of the bills that are still out there with regards to crime and get them passed. Not as many as I want to pass. There's a couple. They'll help, but they won't make the big impact that we were looking for, unfortunately.
And certainly the governor's package
yes.
has drawn some concern on both sides.
Yeah.
And that runs into exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, he had some great bills. My colleagues in the House Republican caucus had good bills. We just haven't passed them all, and that's the problem. For us, it was a very comprehensive package of bills that we needed all of them to truly make an impact, to change the course of where we are in Baltimore City. I don't think we're going to be there this year, unfortunately.
Education.
So the big bill was Kerwin. The House, with the House passed, I was absolutely against. It really was in a bad form. In the Senate, we did a lot of work making sure that there were some circuit breakers there with the economy, that if the economy didn't hit a certain point or were to go down, the funding would stay where it was. We wouldn't push through these big increases. We dealt with classroom environment, making sure that teachers can teach, that you can get disruptive kids out of the classroom. We dealt with the funding issues. Right now, I think it's a decent bill from where it was. I mean, I had a lot of problems with it, but it passed the Senate last night. It's in the House, and I believe it'll probably pass out of the House today and make it to the governor's desk.
Isn't there, as I understand it, there's an amendment in there that the Senate put on concerning the impact from the fallout of the corona?
Absolutely, yes.
Explain that a little bit?
So what it is, it's a circuit breaker for next year that looks at our numbers with what's called the Board of Revenue Estimates, which estimates how much revenue we take in as a state. And if we see a 7% dip or a 7.5% dip in the economy, that circuit breaker will trigger and will not allow the increase in funding into education. It keeps it basically level funded that year because we don't want to put ourselves in a worse situation. We're trying to fund more and more.
Which goes to the whole funding mechanism for the Kerwin package.
Yes.
That is also sort of hanging fire, as I understand it.
Well, Kerwin is funded for the next 3 years, or I'm sorry, 3 years, so we're 1 year into it, 2 years it's funded. But we have some other revenues coming in that we weren't anticipating, such as what's called the Wayfair provision. This is online sales, with Amazon, but the other big companies called Wayfair. We're seeing a lot more money coming in from that than we anticipated that was going to be going towards education. So we believe we've got this thing funded up to about year 5 right now. And we also put a 5-year circuit breaker in there to look at what's coming out of Kerwin with regards to children and their scores, and if they were where they need to be, then it will continue.
Finally, you're going to be back here at the end of May.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Yeah. So the decision was made on Sunday to adjourn early, which I don't know if you know that this is the first time we have adjourned session early since the Civil War. Since Abraham Lincoln sent Union troops into this state house was the last time we adjourned early. And the idea was, let's make sure that people know that we're still here, government's open, we're going to do our job, and if we need to come back at the end of May, that's kind of the placeholder so that the 188 legislators have scheduled it in their calendar to clear that time frame. So if we need to come back and help the governor with more emergency legislation to fight the coronavirus or help stabilize the economy economically, we'll be here for them.
Senator Jennings, thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you.
And that is our program for this week. For all of us at MPT, thanks for watching and have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.
TV Worth Watching is supported by the members of MPT and by...
Hello, I'm Anibon Basu, CEO of Sage Policy Group. Our economic consultancy has served clients in more than 40 states and in 6 countries, but we're proudest to call Maryland home. Join us in support of one of Maryland's great treasures, MPT.
We have found in the industry, minorities are still underrepresented. Our goal is to be a face in our community. You don't see yourself doing something if you don't see other people that look like you doing it.
71